Hi, I'm talking about a camera which I think is extremely undervalued and underappreciated. It's a camera from about 1960. They produced them until maybe 1974 even, according to some books, but I suspect they stopped producing them in about 1970. And that is the camera known as the Isoly. And it's a camera produced by Agfa, and it's basically it's a cheap camera. It's a plastic body camera. It takes 120 film. You think, what, has he completely lost it? Why is this camera so interesting? It's interesting, I think, in a lot of different ways, which I'm going to explain. And it's extremely important in how it was copied. So let's first of all talk about the camera. It is, as I said, a basic camera very much for the amateur market. The first interesting thing is the type of film. If I open the back, you can see, hopefully there, a 120 spool. This camera takes 120 medium format film, but instead of doing it on a 6x6 area, it's a smaller window, as you can see there, which is 4x4. So the camera is producing a smaller negative. Now that has one benefit in that instead of getting 12 photographs on a film, we are going to get 16. Now it is a smaller size, but at this time in the early 60s there was a format known as super slides, and super slides were a 4x4 square 4 centimetres by 4 centimetres size transparency, so that's a film that would go in a projector. And although 35mm obviously is smaller, but the frame for 35mm is 4x4. So, this was a camera which could take transparency film, so that was another advantage to it. Now, as I said, interesting little button at the bottom there, lever to lock it. It also has, to put the spools in, quite nice little levers here, which the spool and film is so easy to put into this camera. This is a really nice feature, really simple. In some medium format cameras, it can be quite difficult to get the film in, but really easy on this camera. We have a shutter on the top. We have and it's interesting to note it's actually a hot shoe, so that was actually very advanced of the time. We have a focusing lens. It says it's a achromat lens. It's only f8. We are very limited in the shutter speeds. We have a 100th and a 30th. I think the 30th was really for flash. We have B, so we can do long exposures. And we only have two f-stops, f11 and f8. So let's say it was really dull, we would then have to go on a 30th of a second. So the latitude is slim. But we have got a focusing lens. And I will talk in more detail later on about the photographs I took with this camera, but I was quite amazed by the quality of this very cheap looking camera. We do have a very good viewfinder. It is a focusing lens, as I said before, and to use we basically set the focus, work out whether we want f11 or 8. If it's bright, obviously f11 on 100th of a second, and click and wind on. Is that all, do you think? No, it's not quite all, because this camera, have you seen this shape before? Well, obviously I've seen lots of cameras look similar, but My first camera, when I was a small lad, bought for me by my granny, was a plastic Diana camera. And this in the 60s was, I think it was given out with soap powder. And it was there were millions of these. And you probably recognise it because you can buy them from lomography on the internet. They are all over eBay, these Diana cameras, and they have become quite a cult camera. See any similarities? We have a shutter, we have a viewfinder right in the middle. We have the echo of the lines here. The Agfa, as I said, opens up the bottom. The Diana, it opens on the bottom. We have 4x4 here for super slides. We even have the same mechanism for putting in the film. The Diana is basically a copy of the Isoly. The Isoly, they were other models made, as I said, and when you compare the two cameras, this is a far better manufactured and produced camera. Initially I thought, could they have been made in the same factory? No, this is made almost as a toy, very, very much of a plastic. This definitely has a feel of a camera. I'm going to go back to this because this is what I was really talking about today. I took this out and obviously took some photographs. Let's have a look at those photographs. The first photograph is a landscape photograph, and I was quite pleased with it. I thought it could be a little bit more focused in the background, but it was fine. And again, this is a similar result. I might have had a slight developer problem here, but it is fine. As I said, the camera is quite limited, but as I used it more, the better I think the results became. I quite like this effect here. This was near Shaftesbury, and here we are, Gold Hill, Shaftesbury, a very famous location, but a nice location. But I wanted to get some tourists in as well, because this is one of the most photographed sites in Dorset. It is extremely picturesque, but often is being photographed, as we can see here. The town itself, Shaftesbury, is a lovely English market town, and I was pleased that it has some activity. The post office here is a traditional post office. There's some softness at the top, and there's some aspects of this lens which is unpredictable. But it's that unpredictability which I like sometimes in a camera, and I've talked before how now with digital cameras how everything is so perfect. I find it quite reassuring where you use a camera and it gives you an effect you aren't quite expecting. I think the film wasn't completely flat in the back of the camera, so sometimes you've got certain areas which are a little bit out of focus. However, that shot I'm quite pleased with, and I like the shadows here. I really liked the tones in this of this camera. And there's something, I think, of the 1950s in the look. Very difficult to say how a lens has certain looks, but it does, because a lens will have properties. It has ways in which it was manufactured, and that definitely glass is important for giving a look of a photograph. And there's a sort of retro look to these, which I was pleased with. I'm using former 100 film, and it's been developed in ID11 diluted 1:1 for 10 minutes. I really enjoyed using this camera, and I got 16 photographs, and there's 16 photographs on the film. So if you see one of these cameras, don't overlook it. It might be an ideal fun camera. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.